Have you ever felt yourself pressing against the edges of a life that used to fit? Not because that anything was wrong, not because that you're ungrateful, because something in you has grown beyond what the container can hold. What do you do when the soil that you were planted in can no longer sustain what you are becoming? Today, we are talking about outgrowing, the unbecoming, the tilling. Welcome to The Kindred Journey, the podcast for the spiritually curious, the wounded, the wandering, and the wildly awake, where nervous system healing meets spiritual transformation, and where your identity is something you receive, not something you earn. I'm your host, Lesley. You don't have to have it figured out to belong here. Now, take a deep breath. You're in the right place. Let's go. Before we get started here, I just want to share, I was supposed to record this episode a couple weeks ago, but for the sake of divine time or running out of time, whatever you might call it, I am recording it today. When this episode is not only landing for whoever's listening, but it's landing more than ever in real time for me right now. I am in this season, and this is very much alive for me. So this isn't from a place of teaching what I've learned. This is what I'm navigating in real time today. So I would just love to share that with you because this soil, this tilling, this outgrowing the pot and being planted and being rooted into something new is very much alive for me right now as I record this episode today. So thank you for being with me. And I'd like to start off, maybe you've experienced this, maybe you haven't yet, and that's okay. It's all on your own journey, on your own time. There is a moment, and you might know it, when you walk into a space that was once yours, and you feel it in your body before your mind catches up. It's not anger, it's not resentment. It's just a feeling of, this no longer fits. There is a clarity that is almost worse than confusion, because confusion, it gives you room to stay. Clarity does not. I've been in this season. I am in this season, like I shared. And what I know now is that outgrowing is not failure. It's just evidence of growth. You cannot outgrow something without having grown. And currently, present, past, and will be in the future, I will have outgrown this pot of soil. Whatever it is, you will too. You will experience this growth at some point in your life. And there's not a bitterness. It's again that clarity that I couldn't pretend that I didn't have any longer. It's the confusion gives you space to stay in that soil, that space. Now having the clarity that I do, I can no longer pretend that I have the space or the confusion to stay in that space. So I'd like to talk about this space of outgrowing and arriving and what happens in this space, because I don't feel like we talk about it enough. It's that tilling season. It's the in-between. It's the no man's land. It's kind of that void. And most of us are not taught how to be in the void. We are only taught how to fill it, how to cope with it, how to maybe numb with it, to go back to maybe something that's comfortable or familiar. And from a personal experience and from the way that I am wired, I am going to graciously call myself out here today, because I am someone who finds safety or has found safety in the pressure, not in the spaciousness, not in the void. And learning to till, to create space without knowing what will grow, what fruit will come of it, honestly has been one of the most disorienting and necessary things that I have ever done in my life. So again, we're gonna go with this pot of soil analogy, a plant, whatever, choose your adventure, flower, whatever. Thinking about a plant, that you buy at the store and you get ready to place in a bigger bed of soil. It started off as a seed, a start, watered, nurtured in a smaller pot, continues to be uprooted and continues to be taken out of a smaller pot into a larger pot until it's ready to be purchased and then put into a bed of soil, a garden bed, whatever it is, a flower pot, a bigger flower pot at your home. So thinking about a plant that has outgrown its container, it's not sick, it's not failing, it's honestly thriving. It's thriving to the point where the current container can no longer sustain it. And you even see when you pull this plant out of the pot that it's in, you see the roots kind of growing up the sides because the roots have nowhere left to go. There's no more depth to the pot. There's no more foundation that this plant can build in the current pot of soil that it's in. And I think as humans, we interpret the discomfort of outgrowing as evidence that something might be wrong with us. I would love to invite you into a reframe here. The discomfort that we feel when we have outgrown a space, a role, whatever it is, that's the evidence of growth. You are not broken. You are ready for a bigger container. You cannot outgrow a container without having grown. Again, going with this analogy of a plant, starting off as a tiny seed, nurtured, watered, taken care of, and growing. There's so many pots that little start goes into before it gets put into the big bed of soil. So the discomfort here is not the problem, it's the proof. But this is where most people will turn back. Not because the old container was right, but because the void, the unknown, the discomfort, it feels more threatening than what is already known, than the pot of soil that they have already been in. And again, I want to be honest with you about something, about my personality, about my unbecoming journey, that I have always been one who has filled the void. I have never been able to just allow for spaciousness. While I am a spacious person, I have always found that safety in the pressure of performing, of doing, of filling that void, that uncomfortable unknown is what I'm talking about today. I get caught up in the cycle of dysregulation. I can't even count how many things, how many programs, how many goals, how many whatever, you name it, that I have only completed probably 60 to 90% of. And I've been curious lately about the why. Why was I not able to, even the last 5% of something, I just don't complete? For me, the answer is deep, definitely layers deep. But for me, it's the pressure. It's the overwhelmed. It's the overwhelm that I experience that I can't sit with. It's the pressure to perform. It's the pressure to get it done. And overwhelm happens when we are outside of our capacity. And something that I am noticing lately is when I'm in the car driving, there is not a lot of room for spaciousness in my time alone in the car. Whether I'm playing music or I'm listening to a podcast or I'm sending voice memos, whatever it might be, I fill the silence almost every single time without consciously choosing. And again, just noticing. I'm just noticing that. Is it because I don't want to sit with the discomfort? Or is it just how I'm wired, that I love input, which is a part of my top 10 Gallup Strength Finders. So I love input. I love to learn. So while honoring myself and how I'm wired, but also being able to sit with the discomfort, sometimes that's very difficult for me as a human. And again, all of this, me calling myself out pretty hard right now, this all comes with love and compassion. Because here's what I know. From this curiosity, I do not create space for integration. That spaciousness, that integrative space has been in the past unbearable for me. I want to move through something, I want to check the box, and I want to move on to the next thing. I don't want to take the time to integrate, to, let's go back to this soil analogy. I don't want to go back to figuring out what's wrong with the soil, the nutrients in the soil. What does this plant need to thrive in its best environment? I want to take a moment and speak directly to you. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you already know that this work is not about having the right answers or following the right steps. It's about coming home to your body, to yourself, to who you actually are underneath everything that you have been carrying. I have opened an intimate amount of one-to-one coaching spaces, 12 weeks of deeply personal, somatic healing work that's built entirely around you and your season. No curriculum, no predetermined path, just sacred co-created space where your body leads and I hold the way. This is for the woman who has done the mindset work and still feels that something is unresolved. The one who knows something is ready to move, but does not quite trust it yet. If this is landing somewhere in your body right now, I want you to pay attention to that. The link to book a connection call is in the show notes. This is just a conversation. No pressure, no script. It's just us feeling out together whether this is your next step. I would be so honored to walk alongside you. Let's get back to the show. Both of these require something of us, but only one moves us forward. You know, I use the analogy all the time, choose your hard. It's hard to stay right where you are, especially if you're in a growing season and you're ready to outgrow the pot of soil, but there might be some fear that is keeping you in that pot and keeping you still from making the next step forward. Because it's scary, it's unknown. It's not something you've ever experienced before. The other one is hard because it's the mystery of God. You know, you don't know what you're stepping into. It's something new. It's something foreign. It's something that your nervous system has never experienced before. So again, I've touched on this, but I really want to honor something here. Some of this pressure, some of this lack of spaciousness is just how I'm wired. Again, I have input as one of my top 10 strengths in the Gallup Strength Finders. So I know this about me and I honor it. Some of it's about my personality. I'm a very social person, so catching up with friends with voice memos or whatever while I'm driving, like that's my time to do it. I'm a busy mom of 2 little kids. So giving myself the grace in knowing that that's who I am and how I'm wired, but also giving myself the spaciousness to allow conscious choice in sitting in the spaciousness and sitting in the stillness when those times of need, and make sure those needs are being met to be with the spaciousness. And there's so much grace in knowing and discerning between the two. And there's also an invitation in this to witness the blind spots, to make conscious choice in order to set myself up for the next level of growth. I'd like to share with you here my verse of the year. I love to pick some words at the beginning of the new year, really search the Bible for a verse that whether it finds me or I find it. I've shared this in other episodes where my 2025 verse of the year was pretty deep and it hit pretty spot on. I didn't even know that verse definitely chose me. This year, I chose Galatians 6:9, and I'm using the Passion Translation here. It is such a beautiful, poetic way of receiving God's word, for me, at least. I really resonate with this translation. And don't allow yourselves to be weary in planting good seeds, for the season of reaping the wonderful harvest that you've planted is coming. So my invitation to you here is, do not grow weary in doing good, for the great harvest is coming. Don't stop planting those good seeds. Don't stop planting good seeds just because you can't see the fruit yet. And again, this verse goes along with today's episode and using the soil analogy and the plant and outgrowing the pot of soil. And the void between outgrowing and arriving is not absence. It's the absolute preparation. I was on a Peloton bike ride a couple weeks ago, and one of the instructors said, you don't eat fruit from the seed that you plant that same exact day. And that's so true. And we live in such an instant gratification world where we want immediate return. We want immediate ROI. And it doesn't work like that. And I think that's where patience and being very kingdom-minded is something that teaches us this patience of tending to the soil, making sure our nutrients and the water is getting to our roots and our foundation while growing the sunlight. And it's funny because my 4-year-old, we just planted a garden last weekend, and he said, we're going to go. We went and bought the plants, and we brought them into the garden. So I feel like maybe this is a lot of the inspiration of where this episode came from, but he wants tomatoes right now. And I'm like, oh, honey, what a great lesson. What a perfect lesson on patience that we get to receive because of what God is showing us and what is teaching us. We have to tend to the soil. We have to plant those good seeds. The great harvest will come, but we have to be patient for it. So I'd love to invite you into, again, just the reframe of this void, this tilling of the soil, that spaciousness is not emptiness. It is actually the prerequisite for new growth. You cannot plant seeds in soil that is occupied. You can't plant new seeds in soil that is not tilled and prepped and cultivated. It's in the tilling, the releasing, the unbecoming, the creation of space. That is the work before the work. It's the prep work before the work begins. And I've kind of danced around this. Like, I'll be completely honest, I am in a very big deconstruction phase of my life right now. The unbecoming of some deep, long-held patterns that are wired into my being. Not just my 36 years on earth, but the epigenetics that have been passed on from generation to generation that I am unbecoming. And again, my tendency in the past, every single time, has been to fill it back up, to cover it right up, to get rid of the space without allowing any time for it to breathe. But here's the important part. If you are in this place of spaciousness or the void, the unknown, the unbecoming, the spaciousness is there for an exchange. So while you are extracting things from your life and removing what no longer fits you, It's not just about releasing it, it's about exchanging it. You don't keep the spaciousness forever. It's exchanged. So that might bring you a sigh of relief or a sense of peace, maybe. The places where old patterns have lived, whether that's a limiting belief or a false identity, maybe it's a core wound, whatever it is for you, they must be exchanged. And they're exchanged with what God wants to put there. Jesus wants to transform you. Your present circumstance is not the source of your pain. It originates from somewhere in your past. And when you are able to receive what Christ has in store, to replace the wound, the belief, to heal the wound, the belief, the false identity, the pattern, whatever it is for you, that is the exchange. But you have to be willing to receive it. No one else can do that for you. Sacred belonging is not just about where you arrive. It is having the courage to leave where you no longer belong. The community that will hold the next version of you cannot find you if you are still performing for the approval of the last container. I'm going to say that again. The community that will hold the next version of you cannot find you if you are still performing for the approval of the last container that held you, the container that you have outgrown, the container that you no longer belong to. You were never meant to belong everywhere. You are meant to belong somewhere true. And getting there requires the courage to outgrow what no longer fits. And I'm curious, I'm genuinely curious, is there a container in your life that you have outgrown, but you haven't named yet? And again, that can be a role, a relationship, a version of yourself that used to fit quite nicely, but no longer fits anymore. And that question might make you want to run the opposite direction or hit stop or run for the hills and not listen to this podcast again. Invitation, you do not have to leave this today. You don't have to know what comes next. This is just an invitation to let yourself name it. And it might come from your body first. It might be something that has been wanting to surface, but you have been ignoring it because you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what to do with this next version of yourself yet, and that's okay. Where do you feel the edges? Where do you feel the pressing or maybe the pressure of trying to fit in an old identity or an old sense of belonging that just doesn't quite fit anymore or feel right? That is only information. That's not a verdict. It's just the beginning of an honest conversation with yourself, with God, about what you are becoming. I invite you to share this with one woman who is in the tilling season, who has outgrown something. And she might not have the language for it yet. She needs to know that the void that she is sensing or feeling or experiencing, it is not the end. It is only the beginning. So if you are in the middle of the void right now, the in-between, the no man's land, the trying to figure out the next place that you are supposed to be planted and grow deep, deep roots, I want you to hear this. You are not meant to walk this alone. We, as human beings, are wired for community, to commune with one another, to have someone walk alongside us in the seasons that feel the most disorienting. And I would truly be honored if I was that person for you. If something in this episode stirred something, thank you for meeting me here. If this episode met you somewhere real, the most generous thing that you can do is share it with one woman in your life who is wandering, curious, or quietly longing for more. She might not even know she's looking for this yet. And if you have a moment, leaving a 5-star review helps more women find their way to this space. And that is part of the healing too. I'll see you next Thursday.